Picture this. It's 1990. Michael Crichton, this tall doctor, writes a seriously scary book about dinosaurs. His buddy, Steven Spielberg, a guy who absolutely loves giant monsters, reads it early and just knows it's going to be massive. Universal Pictures scoops it right up, and Steven has this grand vision to bring it to the big screen. But he has one unbreakable rule: no cheap rubber suits. He completely refused to use them. If these animals were coming back to life, the movie magic had to be totally, absolutely perfect. Which brings up this wild question. How did a mechanical monster and a handful of really fast computers end up changing movies forever? Well, it turned into this incredible clash between two completely different worlds. On one side, you had practical effects. We're talking huge, heavy, physical robots built by a master toy maker named Stan Winston. On the other side, you had digital effects, which was this brand new, completely unproven computer technology from a super smart team at a company called ILM. It was real, heavy metal, facing off against screens and pixels. Stan Winston and his crew were absolute legends. They didn't just guess what these things looked like. They spent hours looking at actual dinosaur bones so they could build these giant robots to look like living, breathing animals. They started by sketching, then sculpted these small clay models to serve as the master blueprints. After that, clever engineers stepped in, building heavy metal bones and special tubes to push the metal legs around. Finally, they covered the whole skeleton in this soft foam skin, painting it with bumpy scales to make it look totally alive. And the absolute king of all these robots was the T-Rex. You gotta understand the sheer size of this thing. It was 40 feet long, and the weight? 12,000 pounds. Just let that sink in for a minute. 12,000 pounds of giant metal machine. It was massive. And honestly, it was just way too heavy and dangerous to use for any scenes where the dinosaur actually had to run. Because of that limitation, Steven needed a trick for the running shots. He brought in Phil Tippett, who was an absolute expert at this old trick called stop motion. Basically, you take these tiny dinosaur puppets, move them a tiny bit, take a picture, move them a tiny bit more, and take another picture, so they look alive on video. But when Steven watched the test footage, it looked cool, but it felt a lot like flipping through a slightly jerky flipbook. Steven was really worried it just wouldn't look real enough for his grand vision. Right around then, this incredibly smart computer team at ILM stepped up to the plate. Dennis, the guy leading the team, boldly told Steven he could make a digital dinosaur right inside a computer. Nobody had ever really done this before, so Steven basically told Dennis to prove it. Dennis went back to his super fast computers, and his team built a digital skeleton right there on the blank screen, making the digital bones move perfectly in a circle. Steven was completely blown away. The computer bones moved exactly like a real running animal. So he told Dennis to go ahead and add skin to the bones. The team put their heads down, worked insanely hard, and when they finally showed the new video, man, it was a fully painted dinosaur walking right across a field. It looked completely real. In that exact moment, the way we make movies changed forever. Of course, not everyone was thrilled. When Steven showed this jaw-dropping computer video to Phil realized his puppet job was basically over. He was pretty heartbroken. But Steven, being the incredibly smart guy he is, kept Phil around anyway. He knew Phil understood true animal movement better than anyone else alive, so Phil ended up teaching the computer team how to make the digital dinosaurs move with actual living soul. Now, while the computer guys are totally geeking out back in California, the actual filming starts on this absolutely beautiful jungle island called Kauai, out in Hawaii. You had this amazing cast, Sam playing the dinosaur expert, Laura as his partner, Jeff being the funny scientist rocking all black clothes, and Richard, with that soft voice and white beard, playing the wise old park owner. And the crazy part is, they had to stand out there and pretend to be absolutely terrified of these huge dinosaurs while literally just staring up at empty trees. But they didn't just have empty trees. The crew actually lugged that giant 12,000-pound robot T-Rex all the way to Hawaii. Moving that thing was a total nightmare on its own. But here's the real kicker. They were in a deep jungle where it rained almost every single day. The rain made absolutely everything messy. So what exactly happens when a massive foam robot meets the Hawaiian rain? Total physical disaster. The foam skin on the giant robot started soaking up all that rainwater. It got so unbelievably heavy that the whole machine started shaking uncontrollably. It basically turned into a 12,000-pound, incredibly angry kitchen sponge, just completely waterlogged and wildly malfunctioning right in the middle of the jungle. It was pure chaos on set. The crew was running around frantically, literally trying to dry off a robotic dinosaur with towels. They had these huge hairdryers blasting on the metal and foam, just rushing to fix this shaky monster in time to film. And they barely pulled it off for the scary shot where the T-Rex smashes right through the glass roof of the cars. The glass was falling on the kids in the scene, and I promise you, the screaming and fear on their faces was 100% real.
Things actually got a lot scarier in real life right after that. A massive storm called Hurricane Iniki slammed into the island. It was no joke. The wind was so intense, it completely destroyed the outdoor movie sets, and the whole cast and crew had to hunker down and hide inside their hotel. Steven tried his absolute best to keep everyone calm while they rode it out for hours. Eventually, everyone was safe, but they were totally exhausted. They had to pack up their heavy bags, fly back to a studio in California, and finish filming those running scenes by building a fake jungle indoors. With the filming finally done, they had to figure out how to make these things actually sound real. A guy named Gary was in charge of the sound effects, and he had a huge problem because nobody actually knows what a real dinosaur sounds like. So Gary went to the zoo with a microphone. To build the iconic T-Rex roar, he took his time and recorded a baby elephant squeaking, a big tiger roaring its head off, and tossed in a dog sound just to rough it up and make it truly terrifying. The audio magic didn't stop there. For those absolutely terrifying raptors, Gary casually mixed together dolphin noises and the sounds of angry geese. Yeah, angry geese made one of the deadliest movie monsters ever. Pretty wild. Meanwhile, an editor named Michael was carefully building the story scene by scene, and the legendary John Williams wrote this incredibly grand, sweeping song that just made the dinosaurs feel so deeply beautiful and majestic. Back at ILM, the computer team spent many more months just agonizing over the details. They had to drop those digital dinosaurs into the real footage, doing this incredibly slow, careful work of matching the fake lighting from the computer to the real lighting filmed on the set. Steven watched every single shot closely, asking for tiny changes every single day until everything looked absolutely flawless to the studio bosses. When 1993 rolled around and the movie finally dropped, the world went completely wild. Families lined up around the block, it made $1 billion, becoming the biggest movie in the whole world. But it was way more than just money. Kids got totally obsessed with real dinosaurs, museum visits boomed, and millions of toys flew off the shelves. Plus, the entire movie industry changed its rules overnight, mostly stopping the heavy physical models because computers had proved they could build just about anything. And yet, what makes this film hold up so perfectly today isn't just the shiny computers, it's the balance. They used the heavy physical robots for the close, scary shots where things needed to feel completely solid, and the fast computers for the wide, running shots. It's the cinematic equivalent of peanut butter and jelly, mixing the physical and the digital perfectly together so the whole world just works. Ultimately, the story is this loud warning about human pride, a reminder that you really can't control dangerous nature. But behind the camera, it was pure imagination meeting bold new invention. Filmmakers dreamed of real dinosaurs, and they had the raw courage to invent the bold new tools to actually pull it off. It was pure magic. And honestly, it makes you wonder, with all our shiny CGI today, will we ever see a movie take a physical risk that huge again? If you had a good time hanging out and talking about this today, go ahead and hit that like button, share this with a friend, and subscribe so we can dive into more cool stuff together soon.